So, Dr. Lucita, are you in the house?
So go on.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Dr. Lucita.
Today I want to do something on being kind to ourselves. I don't know how many times you just say, I'm going to be kinder to me, and I'm going to be gentler, and to be softer, and to be good to myself. We are always hard on ourselves, like I didn't do that, I have to do that. So I want to be kind to myself. Perhaps all of us, we need to start from today to be kind to ourselves. You know, as from today, to myself, I want to be kind. Not with harsh words that might lead me astray, but gentle with every step that I take. I want to let go of all my fears. I want to release of all the tears and trust that peace is mine, that I want to take and inhale. I will not judge myself. I want to leave everything behind. I don't want to regret. I want to cherish every moment as it comes because I want to be kinder to myself. I will forgive all the mistakes of the past. I want to recognize what growth it made me. I want to forget the past. I want to be kinder to myself. I want to embrace the quiet side of me. I want to allow my thoughts to be glide. I want to be kinder to me. I want to accept all my flaws because look, all my flaws are perfect. I want to leave all the imperfections, draws. You see, I want to be kinder to myself. I want to say that every human has fallen short of his glory. I want to be kinder to myself. You know, I will not fear to rest sometimes. I want to know that slowing down is not a crime, and then moving ahead is a step that I want to make as I am kinder to myself. I want to celebrate my strengths, for I have come this far. Look, I have come this far. Through the trials that almost broke me, I want to be kinder to myself. I will be kind to myself now. With grace, I want to take this humble vow because me, I want love and care. From me, I want to be kinder to myself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lucita. Thank you so much. So I call upon Nashami. Nashami, where are you? Kindly introduce the guest speaker of the day.
Thank you so much. I want to be kind to myself today. Hello, Power Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Those joining us for the first time, we warmly welcome you. I am honored to introduce His Excellency Ambassador Maurice Makoloo, Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations in Vienna and Austria, and Ambassador to Austria. Appointed early in 2024, Ambassador Makoloo has been instrumental in strengthening Kenya's diplomatic relations and advancing its interests on the international stage. Before his current role, Ambassador Makoloo served as a Vice President for the Africa Area Office at Habitat for Humanity International from 2021 to 2024, where he led initiatives to improve housing and living conditions across the continent. Prior to that, he was the East Africa Regional Director for the Ford Foundation between 2012 and 2021, overseeing programs that addressed social justice and human rights issues. What an amazing profile. Ambassador Makoloo holds a bachelor's and master's degree in law from the University of Nairobi and a South African institution, respectively. He is also a certified leadership coach from Georgetown University in the United States. Ambassador Makoloo has demonstrated unwavering commitment to sustainable development, social equity, and international cooperation throughout his distinguished career. His leadership has been instrumental in fostering partnerships that drive positive change, particularly in housing, social justice, and economic development. We all go through marathons, whatever the marathon you face. There are lessons you learn from it. We are privileged today to have him here today, and I invite you to join me in warmly welcoming His Excellency Ambassador Maurice Makoloo to share his insights and wisdom. Thank you and welcome, Maurice.
Wow, what a welcome. Thank you so much for a very kind introduction. I hope you can all hear me well.
Very well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So on the 6th of April this year, I will run the Vienna City Marathon. This will be the 4th full marathon that I will have run. In addition, I have also run over 20 half marathons, not to mention other shorter races. In the course of this running, I have talked to, I have watched, I have read about many other runners. And in the process, I noticed certain patterns. So coupled with my own experiences, I wish this morning, if it is evening your point, to share 7 lessons that mirror life from these marathons. Number 1, I'll call it one race, many races. For a long time, those who are in Nairobi and participated in the Standard Chartered Marathon, it used to kick off at Nyayo Stadium in the direction of the city center all the way towards Westlands. One time when I was at the railway bridge, I noticed many people ahead of me, and it's like they had really gone around the loop. I nearly panicked. But I also looked back, and I also saw many people behind me. I calmed down because it reminded me that there will always be people ahead of me and there'll be people behind me. And as you run, you discover that within that one big race, there are many other races. Those that were ahead of you, sometimes you go and pass them. And those that were behind you, sometimes also pass you. Now you discover that within this multitude, there are those who are running their first marathon. There are also those who are pushing or chasing their personal bests in a marathon. Others are running to celebrate something, a life, an anniversary, a moment. Others are simply doing team building. One race, many races. What's clear, though, is that those who are very clear-eyed about why they are in that race are more determined, are more deliberate, and run better races. You will be surprised that many of those participants are simply running. In this marathon of life, I hope you are not one of those many participants who are simply running. Are you clear about what you are doing? Why do you do what you do? Be very clear about your why. Because that why, the clarity of your why, helps you in many, many fundamental ways. That for me has been one lesson. The second lesson is about focus and discipline. it is important that you set a goal. And by the way, as I say this, I'm also very reminded of a conversation that was here also last Monday. It was about goal setting, being about the new year and all that. So in some ways, there are lots of continuations. And also when Dr. Lucita was talking, I thought maybe she was also speaking from the spirit, because she also used some two words, kindness and rest, that I'm also going to refer to. But now I'm talking about focus and discipline. And I say it is very important that you set your goal and be very focused on it and be very disciplined about it. On the 7th of June, 2019, my follower brother, Lucas, arrested. You see, Lucas had lived with a physical disability on account of polio throughout his life. And yet he went on to achieve many things. So I joined the New York City Marathon to celebrate him by raising funds to support a charity that was dealing with people with disabilities. My target, to raise at least 10,000 US dollars. So I developed a plan. I even opened an online platform. I drew a list of people that I needed to call and did call them. For whatever reason, I decided a month to the race, a month to November. So this was October, sometime in October, that I was going to complete the race in 3 hours, 30 minutes. Mark you, when I started, I had not even started, like, what was my finish line? My goal was to celebrate Lucas by raising over 10,000 US dollars in his honor. But in the process, a month to the race, I introduced a new goal without any plan, nor time to align my resources to achieve it. Eliud Kipchoge's historic run in Vienna, here where I am, on the 16th of October, strangely convinced me that I could do it too. Sema kujichocha. But certainly, I did finish, but certainly not within 3.5 hours. And it remains one of my most painful marathons. I overexerted myself, and I ignored my body that was screaming, stop and do something, stop. It was screaming for first aid. Why? Because my new goal, which was not supported with resources. Secondly, I had set myself an artificial deadline. No one had told me you must finish this within 3.5 hours, but I had just set it up for myself. How many times do you hear people say, I must do this by this year. I must have done this by age dash. What's that based on? Listen, I set goals. I'm just talking about being intentional and being focused on the goals. So fast forward to 2023, Berlin City Marathon. At kilometer 8, this gentleman that was running discovered, because I had a scarf on my neck that was Kenyan, that I was from Kenya. So he pulled out his phone and started recording and sending a message home that was running with a Kenyan. And of course, it gave him a lot of joy to be running with me. At that time, we were running at a pace of about 440. 440 means you're finishing, for every kilometer, you are spending about 4 minutes and 40 seconds. For perspective, the elite athletes take about 3 minutes. So we were running fast, but not too fast. At kilometer 30, my friend from Brazil simply said, Maurice, just go. His indiscipline meant that he had not focused on himself. He was distracted by the urge to run with a Kenyan. I guess the message is beware of the distractions in life, especially those that occur at the last minute, because they take you off your course without the necessary alignment of mind, spirit, resources. Beware. Number 3, get yourself a coach or a mentor. I was introduced to Coach Didan in 2023 to run for Sanlam Marathon, Cape Town, South Africa. Previously, I had been running, but I never had a coach. But this year, I had a coach, although paradoxically, I ended up missing the run because of work commitments that necessitated me to travel. But he introduced me to a number of things, like a training plan. What do you do on Monday? What do you do on Tuesday? What do you do on Wednesday? Thursday is a rest day. What do you do on Friday? What do you do on Saturday? Sunday is a rest day, and everything like that. He introduced me to a fueling plan. How do you re-energize as you train? But most importantly, how do you re-energize in the course of your marathon? It's called a fueling plan. And he introduced me to a pacing plan. At how fast should you go? At what point? When do you slow down? When do you go fast? To be honest, training is brutal. It's hard work. It gives you aches and pains. But it helped me get my personal best yet in a marathon. That which I could not achieve in New York City in 2019, I achieved it later on in Berlin in 2023 because of the coach that I got. Berlin Marathon proved to be one of my most enjoyable marathons yet. Please get yourself an advisor, a coach, or a mentor. Basically, someone who knows something more than you do about what you're doing, or at the very least, has a different perspective from yours. Number 4, go together. The famous African saying goes that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, go with others. Preparing and running a marathon is demanding. You actually have to schedule it. As I've said just a little while ago, there is a plan to it. You will have bad days in office. Even the great Eliud Kipchoge has not had it all the time. Remember, after even he won Ineos, he couldn't finish the London Marathon. He's now training for it for April 26th. He couldn't finish the Olympics. You will have a bad day. And this is also where you go to what Dr. Lucita was talking about, being kind to yourself. It is not going to be easy all the time. You have to deal with a lot of aches in your body, yet you have to push yourself to train even on days when you do not feel like training. All of us need a kind word, a word of encouragement now and then. You see, resilience is about being able to pick ourselves up rather, when we are down. But we also know that it's easier to pick yourself up when you're helped, when a hand is extended to you. When you go together, it is easy for a hand to be extended to you. Yesterday, I got this text message from my coach, Dida Miricho. I told you I'm going to run, excuse me, on the 6th of April. So he had already developed a training plan, and I had not reported anything. So he sends a text. How are you doing, Maurice? 0 mileage this week. Although I had planned to run, yesterday, the message nearly made it impossible for me to skip the running. You see, friends, the people we live with, your family, your friends, your spouse, your colleagues at work, they become our accountability partners. Believe you me, you need an accountability partner. They challenge us, they encourage us, they correct us, they push us, and they whisper kind words to us when we are even being unkind to ourselves. Because sometimes you say, I just messed that up. But because you are together with somebody who says, oh, is that so? I didn't see the mess. You did great. These accountability partners give us feedback. They make us better. But technology can also be our accountability partner. You see, a smartwatch like this, as many of you have it, when you sit for some time, it will nudge you and say, move, take a few steps. Or if you're one of those who wears them going to bed, it will tell you whether you're having enough sleep or not. If you wear it when you're doing a race, when you finish, it will be the first to tell you, that was a nice workout. And all of us begin to feel that, yeah, this is something. Or sometimes it will tell you, you've not worked for 2 weeks, you are detraining. So you need this accountability partner, whether it is in a human form or in a technology form. Remember the power of words. And so the words have effect to either bring life or take life. And it's not just in terms of physical, it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's, words can encourage or discourage. So this morning, remember to whisper a word of power to yourself and also to somebody else. Maybe there's somebody that you've never even talked to, or you've been seeing them doing well, but you've never just uttered it. Because you've been going with them, you've been a witness, tell them. It will make a difference for them. You may also remember, going back to the INEOS challenge in 2019, the V formation was about teamwork. Go together. That is how to run the marathon that is life. Number 5, lean in on your brand. Lean in on your brand. On Monday last week, while meeting this very senior leader at the UN, an ardent runner, by the way, he's going to participate in this marathon that I talked about, but because he's very busy, as indeed most of us are, I told him, how about, I said, Raphael, how about this time we go for the full marathon instead of the half that we ran last year? I said I had just started my training that day. And he looked at me and said, Maurice, you don't need to train. You're a Kenyan. You see, what he had said in that statement is at least 2 things. One, in that sense of saying you are Kenyan, you don't need to do this, a potential competitor has divested himself of his power and poured it into you. He's poured it into me. The consequences, I felt stronger, more affirmed, more recognized. I certainly felt encouraged. But if you think about it, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this brand called Kenya is an extremely powerful brand. I kid you not. The first time I went to the US sometime in August 2002, this taxi driver picked me up and asked where I was coming from. I arrived in Eugene, Oregon, which is apparently a running city. And I said I was from Kenya. I said, oh, have you come to run? Brand Kenya. If you look at this other side, you probably also recognize another brand. I wore this very intentionally to kind of make this point as well. Nike. Your brand goes before you. In many ways, you are always starting from a position of strength with a brand recognition. Lean into it. But if you think about what a brand is, whatever your brand is, it is at least a factor of two things: competence and consistency. In other words, you have to be good and you have to be consistently good. That is the power of your brand. Lean into it. Because magic happens, dear friends. You become it. Number 6, you have to invest to get better. You have to invest to get better. And I will use the word, you have to invest intentionally to get better. Most people cry out about running because their knees hurt. Say, oh, the last time I ran, oh, my knees really hurt. Oh, no, I can't run. No. In truth, the hurt is not because of the running. For very long, I would ache for even a week after just running 21 kilometers, the half marathon, many years ago. Turned out, I had made wrong assumptions. Turned out, I had not invested properly in running. I had assumed, for example, that my regular gym shoe was good enough for running. Wrong. Turns out, running a marathon is a science. Each one of us pronate differently. Pronate means we step down differently. Some of us pronate naturally, meaning you kind of step flat. Some pronate outwards. That's why our shoes sometimes end towards the other end. Some pronate inwards. Our physiologies differ. Our heights, our weights, our body structure. All of these things matter. So how well do you know yourself? Because in running the marathon of life, it's also about knowledge of self. So get the data and use it. You can reflect on your past efforts and tease out lessons for the present and for the future. You can invest in getting feedback through a coach or through an accountability partner. Related to this is, how badly do you want it? Of course, if you want it bad enough, you will invest in it. You will invest in the time, You will invest money. You will invest in networks. Yes, you will sacrifice some things. You will have to sacrifice some things. When you are training for the long races, I mean for a marathon, there are days of long races, and typically these are days when you run maybe even for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, even more. These are typically on Saturdays. That means you have to sacrifice your Friday drink or your Friday evening time with the boys or the girls. You've got to sacrifice something. And yes, you may even have to sacrifice your sleep. Good running gear doesn't come cheap. If you're going to run a marathon, for example, you need at least 2 pairs of shoes. One is what you call the training pair, and the other one is the race day pair. Of course, for the race day pair, you will also have to run with it a little, so you're not trying it on the day of the race. You know, you must not try something new the day of the race. Again, it's a question of knowing, that knowledge. Does this shoe work for me? That knowledge, and use that knowledge to your advantage. You're going to have to know how, if I'm going to run in London, how much do I need for the tickets? Where am I going to stay? How far is it from basically investing in knowledge? Any good outcomes are a product of intentional investment. Number 7, which is last but not least, accept help when it is offered. Just before the start of the 2023 marathon, the Stand Chat in Nairobi, a friend of mine gave another mutual friend, Eric, 2 energy gels. Remember, I talked about fueling plans. It is clear that when Eric was going for running, he did not have an idea about fueling plans. That is why he did not even have the gels, how to refuel during the journey. But anyhow, Eric was offered 2 gels, energy gels. And when he finished the race, which he did very well, he came back and said, well, I don't know if I would have made it without those gels. He accepted help when it was offered, and it proved a turning point in his race. His statement took me to my race in New York in 2019. As I pursued my artificial last-minute goal of finishing in 3.5 hours, I still laugh at that, by the way, I refused to stop at the several first aid points that were along that entire course. By some fate, after I had passed the last first aid point, my muscles cramped so bad, they hurt so intensely that I had to stop for a while to massage them with my hands, just to enable me finish. In seeking to go fast, in seeking to run so fast, I was slowed down. I was given what young Kenyans would call character development. Upon reflection, I concluded that in life, sometimes you have to go slow so as to go fast. Most importantly, I permitted myself to accept help when it is offered. Take time out to rest. You see, even some very experienced athletes don't do every marathon. They pull out of some races. You don't have to be in every space all the time. Take time. This is your race. Run it. The marathon of life is yours. Enjoy it. Thank you for listening to me.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was incredible. I mean, I'm sure everyone here is going to do what is going to concur with me that we can listen to you speak to us the whole day. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Before I call upon Mr. Chairman, and kindly guys, remember to put all your questions in the chat. Any questions but political questions. Remember, we are a political. So there's something you've said, and then I've remembered. There's a post I was reading on Facebook, and this guy was saying he was coming from Machakos, and then a Subaru guy, definitely, it has to be Subarus. It has to be Subarus. A Subaru guy decided to race with this person. And then they raced. And guess what? When they arrived near the expressway, the guy went to the expressway, and then the Subaru guy joined the traffic. And so this guy was like, kindly in life, run your race. Just run your race. So any question? Any question? OPP.
Just before the questions. Yes, thank you, my friend, Ambassador Maurice Makoloo. Yeah, I've not seen you since you traveled that side, so I've gotten a privilege to see you virtually today. I wanted to just express that gratitude that I've really resonated with a number of points that you said. One person, one marathon, different races. You realize that even in life we have different races. I actually learned along the way that even when people go for funeral, you may think that they are mourning the same person, but some are really wailing, but for different people. So even even in an event, I discovered that even when we organize youth events, youth rallies, people come for totally different reasons, and in groups, even like this Power Monday, people come for very different reasons, and that's the way it is. And we have to accommodate all of them. Then some ahead, some behind, and it will always be like that. Sometimes we kill ourselves trying to be the first ones. But I don't think that is really possible. Training, refuel. Training, I was taught, is if you go without training, it's like a car going without fuel. At some point, it will stall. So we've got to keep refueling, and that's why Live Your Dream is here. We've organized a training in partnership with ILO, and there is going to be a training of trainers. It's called Women in Digital Business. You can see, you talked about a brand. You can see the background that we have, ITC, ILO, and it's coming. We have information session coming on Wednesday. You better register. It's on Live Your Dream website. The page is Women in Digital Business, WIDB. And also we have Power Monday, which is also a part of where you can always learn, train, get coaches, and get information so that you grow. Failing to learn, you are actually going back. And then investment, yeah, that means nothing good comes easy. Reminds me of the quote by Margaret Ogola, that nothing good comes easy. A good thing worth every single struggle. So marathon is always, there is always something that we need to invest. And finally, there is also something I relate with: ask for help. Jim Les Brown says, ask for help not because you're weak, but because you want to remain strong. So you got some body to give you some energizer, sometimes also kind words and things like that. So thank you all. People who are here for the first time, we always have a Power Monday WhatsApp group, which you can join and keep learning, keep connecting, keep building your network and growing. Thank you very much. People who have questions, you can always just put them there, and Lady Noel will be able to handle them.
Okay, so there's a question here that how do you overcome runner's block? Yeah, how do you overcome a runner's block? I just a minute. How do you overcome runner's block? And that's a question from Diana. I have no idea what runner's block is, so kindly, Mr. Speaker, the speaker of the day,
So thank you very much. And I have also noted a number of other questions on the chat. A runner's block, just like a writer's block, means that there are just moments when, and it could be interpreted in two ways, that it means a moment when you simply cannot proceed. You probably want to run, you've been running, but you've reached a point where you no longer are just able to run. But it's also possible, I do not know what Diana also meant, is when you are running a race, there is what is called a wall. Typically the wall occurs after your 30th or you're like 35 kilometers, you have about 7 kilometers to go, something like that. And you hit this thing that is called the proverbial wall. And typically it's because you have lost some of your your resources, the glycogen in particular. So your body is no longer able to fuel yourself in a sufficient way. So what I mean there is the block is a factor of a loss of something. So what is it that you've lost? I think, and part of the overcoming that is having somebody, if it's you want to go back, it's about working with somebody who can tell you, because the people who watch you can say where you have lost something. So it's about accountability, it's about feedback, but it's also about reflecting on something that you did, you overdid, or did not do. Maybe you're running with an injury, because literally and figuratively, and so you are no longer able to perform at your best. So it's a question of reflecting back as a way to overcome whatever the challenge is. It's a way of reinvesting. Part of it is how do you overcome is you need to retool yourself. In life is you've tried this and then it's not working, so it means you've got to retool yourself. You've got to resharpen yourself as a way of overcoming that. Maybe it's time for you to be slimmer in some ways or to be muscular in some ways to be able to penetrate that particular block that you have. That is how I would respond to that. Quickly, I've also seen there's a question of the criteria for identifying a good coach or a mentor, and how do you get the best out of that? You can work with referrals, but I always say, and we are taught also this in coaching, but I've also seen it because I've been a coachee myself, and I hope to actually get a coach again this year for leadership. Let me tell you, if there is one thing that I've noticed, we all watch some of the most fantastic players, whether in football or anything. The one thing that they have in common is a coach. You want to be the best in the game, you're already doing very well, get yourself a coach. No one is ever too good not to have a coach. But how do you have one that is good for you? There's also an element of chemistry. So what happened is you get referrals, maybe get 2 or 3 that are, of course, in line with what you want to do. In line could be culturally, because they will understand some of your context. We live in context. So culturally, if you're going to be coached by somebody who is from, say, America or Europe, and you are from Africa, you may want to check, is that cultural alignment good for me? Or it could be that you actually are working in an American or a Western setting, and you need a coach that helps you to understand that particular context. So it's a question of understanding the context in which you want to be coached. And then you apply this and say, this is the coach that is going to help me. Remember, the coach in a coaching exercise, they kind of help you to bring out what you already have inside. And you are the one who knows what you want to be coached on. And so it helps you to identify that. But there's chemistry, you need to be aligned, they need to be available for you. There's no use having a coach that you cannot reach for a month. So there's also about the availability. It's also the affordability. Remember, we're talking about investing intentionally. So some of these coaches, depending on who they are, they can also come with a high price tag. So affordability, availability, and of course, the ability to understand where you want to come. And I think somebody asked about how to get the best out of a coach. Again, I hope that has answered you. You are also talking about, by the way, when you asked the initial question about getting out of a block, resting is part of that. Rest is part of a training plan. It is not, you cannot just keep running. You've actually got to rest. That is why, for those of you who are of Christian orientation, you will see moments where Jesus says, now go to a lonely place and take your rest. He has fed the 5,000, and that's a big deal. It has taken quite a lot on him. And he says, go to a place and rest. He himself will look for moments to rest. So rest really. And of course, when you go to Genesis, after all the heavy lifting of 6 days, God rested on the 7th day. Rest is key to anything else in that sense. Going together, I think there's a question, how do you overcome not letting people in? I think there's also the element of trust. You know, this is, there's a book by Stephen M.R. Covey. This is the son to Stephen Covey. He has a son, Stephen M.R. He wrote a book called The Speed of Trust. And in it, he describes trust tax and trust dividend. And the way to explain a trust tax is those of us who were there when ATMs, the automatic teller machines, were first introduced. You probably remember yourself, not even somebody else, going to withdraw money and you punched 5,000 shillings. And after the money came out, you stood there and counted, you know, to confirm that the machine had given you indeed 10,000, because you did not trust the machine. And everybody who did that, so it basically meant the trust tax means if the trust is low, the speed is also slow, and the cost is high. The cost of time is also very high. But where the trust is high, the cost comes down because you punch, it comes out, you don't even check, off you go. And the speed is also high. That's a tax dividend when there's a, you know. So it's a question of how do you, they always try to get, to harvest the trust dividend by, of course, getting the right people into your lives. You know, there are different ways, and I'm not necessarily the guru to talk about who is good for you. Some of these are actually just even instinct, and some of them are history. You've been going out with this person, and you can notice patterns about, do they give you energy or do they take your energy away? You know, do they keep confidences? Don't they keep confidences? Because you're talking about journeys of life, you know? So do they help improve you, or do they bring you down? Because there are people, for example, who you have around you, and the only thing that ever see is how you're not doing well. Even if you do well, you say, but that is so easy. You know, if you, basically, you will see, we're talking about, God gave you eyes, and not just physical eyes, you know, the spiritual eyes, emotional eyes, intellectual eyes. You will be able to identify patterns of people around you. When you need, when they need help from you, they will readily come. When you need help from them, they will have excuses for why they cannot help you. You will be able to know who needs to be around you. Somebody asked, I think this is Monica, did you plan to be an ambassador? You thinking about intentionality, planning, and investing in personal growth? No, I did not plan on being an ambassador. But this is what I always say. Whatever platform you are in, give your best, okay? And the analogy that I sometimes give is because most people watch football, or soccer, depending on where you are, it's one of those very common things. I always say, think about your life as a football game. You do not know. And you've seen that some players, even very good players, get hurt or get withdrawn before a match is over. Play as if you're about to be substituted the next minute, meaning give yourself to this game, whatever it is that you're doing, give yourself the best of yourself in that process. Because you do not know for how long you're going to be available to play that game. In the introduction, I barely worked for Habitat for Humanity for 3 years. I had intended to be there for a while until my shoulder was tapped and say, hey, go do this. So you can see I was interrupted. I had planned to be there for longer, but I was cut short just after 3 years. You do not know for how long you're going to be on that pitch, give your all. But at the same time, play until you are either substituted or the game is over. Remain committed to the end. Again, relating to this, why I'm making this point is you see a player moving from one team to another. How does that happen? Because as they are playing their game, there is somebody who is watching how they're playing and saying, wait a minute, that player should be in our team. Unknown to you, dear friends, as you do your current job, whatever it is that you're doing, you are interviewing for your next job. What you're doing now is an interview for your next. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Beautiful. Did you see the question by Maurice, another Maurice, by the way, who was asked, how do you maintain an upward career trend in a challenging job situation, or it was something to do with the changing career? When you keep changing career, how do you maintain an upward trend?
So again, that takes me, Peter, that takes me to the issue I raised about brand. And I talked about brand meaning, competence and consistency. Are you consistently changing jobs, or are you consistently being good at what you're doing? So you've got to, because as I said, it travels before you. I've recruited many people, and you see these guys, and sometimes, by the question simply comes, yeah, this candidate is really good, but will he stay? Will she stay? They seem to be moving every 2 years. What is the source of this impatience? And so sometimes it's got to you've got to look back and say, what am I emitting to the world? What sort of signals am I emitting to the world? And this is where, all those things come together. Coaching, or am I too impatient, that I want to keep going? But you've also got to understand that there's also a generational issue here. Younger professionals have no problem moving, very quickly. The only thing I would say is try and stay long enough to be able to kind of develop, leave a full impression of you that when you're not in the room, somebody will say, that would have been so and so. People need to know you enough to speak of you in your absence. So if you move too fast, people barely notice. Of course, you also would not want to stay for too long, that you begin to be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I think because of time, Lady Noel, we can move to the next step.
Can he answer just this last question by Pauline? He says that, how do you remain focused and driven when faced by a setback or little fox, as the Bible calls it?
Again, go back to where we started. Your why. Why do you do what you do? You see, if you can clarify your why in life, it helps you in a number of things. One, when it helps you with decision making. If you are on a road and you have to turn left or right, The reason you turn one way is because of why you're on that road. If you are going home, you're going to turn in the direction home because your why is to reach home. So your why, the clarity of your why helps you in decision making. Number two, your why helps you answer the question, is the cost worth paying? And the cost could be that you have to study something. The cost could be that you leave the job, because it could be that it is taking away from your family time, for example. You want to build a family, but it's just difficult for you to maintain. So your why will also help you. Is the cost worth paying? So some of these things, once you clarify your why, then it helps you to maintain your focus. As they say, when you are lost in a forest, they say, go back to where you started. That is the only way to gain your focus. So go back to the issue of your why. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are definitely going to be bringing you back. Like I've already said that. I don't care what other people say. I will personally create a flyer and invite you again and again. Thank you so much. So I call upon Professor Melvin Glima. Kindly give the vote of thanks.
As you're calling and you're telling Ambassador that you'll invite him, remember it's taken us 1 year for him to get a time to get a chance to be here.
No problem. Not an issue.
And PP, it has also taken you waking me up at 4 a.m. my time too.
Yeah,
so
you told me
it will work.
There's no problem. There is no problem. I will put everything into consideration. Thank you for actually informing me about that. Now I'm going to push it harder. You have to come back in the near future, not next year, and not the second half of this year. Professor Melvin.
Ambassador Maurice Makoloo, you have really kept us enthralled by your speech today about the marathon that you consistently participate in, and about the marathon of life that each one of us is in. Your 7 lessons have really sunk home into the audience, and I believe for me, what stood out was the fact that you must invest in your marathon. You must take help when it is offered, and you must get a coach, a mentor, or an accountability partner. That one stood out for me. So if you're in a marathon, listener or viewer, and you've listened to Ambassador Maurice Makoloo, I think you must have picked up something to take home with. We are so grateful to you, Ambassador, for waking up very early and spending your valuable time addressing us. We do not take your presence on this particular show for granted. I also want to thank everybody in the
We lost you.
Sorry. Am I back? Dan
Yes, you
Olo,
are.
I mean Dan Olale, as well as Antonia I mentioned, for just putting this show together week after week after week, every year. And let's keep up that spirit. We are encouraged by a marathoner like Ambassador Maurice Makoloo to keep practicing for that, for the marathon, and keep also giving back to society as we do regularly at Power Monday with our CSR activities, and keep resting as well. Thank you so much, and we hope in the future to see Ambassador Maurice Makoloo coming to address us once again. Over to you, OPP.
Yeah, maybe my friend Maurice, you will address us on climbing the corporate ladder. We know you've climbed many of them and you alluded to that. And I think that would be a fantastic talk. Yeah. Okay, Lady Noel, our moderator.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for coming today. Now, before we pray and call it a week, I will invite Antonia. Antonia, kindly, any announcement from admin? I know there's a meet and greet that is coming, and the meet and greet is going to be the end of March, the last Saturday of March.
Yeah,
Antonia?
as Antonia probably is, I don't know whether she's there. But we also remember, we also said that we are going to have our first charity visit on 24th of May, and we will go to the same home. So guys, you can prepare. It will be in the afternoon, and we will take time to interact and mentor the children, share with them some career talks, because all of them somewhat want to be doctors. We know that it may not necessarily work, maybe because that is what they are always told. So we will take that time. It's going to be a Saturday afternoon. And then, of course, the first meet and greet is coming on 29th of March. And then we will also have a dinner at the end of October. You better put all these things in plan. These are the opportunities to meet, connect, grow each other. We are told that we move together. Yes, we move together. If we keep moving together, we will grow together. I don't know if His Excellency will stay behind past the time to maybe pick a chat or two from somebody who may be having something burning. But I think we can end it there because I'm not sure if Antonia is still online. Thank you.